Great. So right here, so what we have is our team leader here, and are you a buyer's agent? Great, buyer's agent here. Once again, I'm going to recommend that for you as the driver, that team members, like if you want someone who's more detail-oriented, that analytical expressive could work for you. That analytical driver could work for you. Also, the amiable driver, you know, is a good personality. So again, stay more around here because both of you are over here on the far right. So you don't want to really cross over to the left-hand quadrant if you don't have to. And anytime you're looking for that analytical or amiable quadrant, you can hire the person that's in the secondary position on that, meaning that they'll use it in their work, and that works out just fine.
Is there any concern that the buyer's agent be related and the other team members feel neglected or?
So the question is there any concern that other buyers members, you know, might feel neglected? They shouldn't unless they feel as though there's favoritism taking place. I will tell you that with the amiable personality, the one thing that will cause you to lose that person is if there's any unfair policies in general. So they're a very loyal person, and so for example, let's say you had an amiable personality work on your team and they're very loyal to you. If they suddenly realized that you were being unfair in the way leads were being distributed, then that would be a sense of betrayal for them, and you would lose them as a team member, or you would lose their effectiveness. So that would be the only thing, is that even if you're not being unfair, you almost have to make sure that there's written policies in place, and that you're very careful that those policies are fair for everyone when you've got someone that's a family member on your team. But the expressive isn't going to be as concerned about that, definitely not the logical traits so much. Things are pretty logical, but you just make sure you're fair with everyone, and you shouldn't have a problem with any of the additional team members. And if you have the highly expressive, like double expressive, you could go there. Your daughter would relate better to her than you would, or him. Any other questions here before we move on? No? Is it fun? Isn't this interesting? It's just life stuff. Oh, we have one more question. Yes?
Hiring a virtual assistant. We hired one 2 years ago, and I decided to have the team sit in, and I agreed on a route I will make the decision. And who I would have chosen was so different from who they chose. So I hired who they chose, and it turned out to be a great decision.
Great.
So is there anything else, like when you do an interview like that for a virtual assistant or Skyping, any recommendations on that?
So the question here, so Bobby couldn't hear, is they were hiring a virtual assistant, and it was Connie. I was thinking Bonnie, but Bonnie's not quite right. Connie. So Connie here did bring her team in to, on the Skype call, look at the virtual assistant. Their recommendation was completely different from hers, but it's turned out to be a really good fit. So I think that's always a great idea. With virtual assistants, however, you do have to be careful when you're hiring a virtual assistant with regard to personality. With regard to a virtual assistant, I actually would probably always hire to the left of the line. And I don't know if your virtual assistant's over there, but just because the amiable personality, that is a very trustworthy personality. In a virtual, they're going to have to keep track of their own hours and do a lot of things on their own. The analytical, again, is a very logical, very organized, very structured personality who can also work very well on their own. Both of these, I have a virtual assistant whose personality is right here, just amazing. And where do you think my personality is, by the way? Driver. Yes. Driver. I'm actually right here. The driver expressive, so I'm primarily expressive. But my driver's side is also very strong. They're almost even. Where's Ken? He's in the back of the room. I forget. Ken, we did test you, didn't we? You're here in the center somewhere, aren't you?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Is amiable driver or analytical expressive?
I think I'm an amiable expressive.
He's in the center.
I'm in the center.
He's good. He's good.
This is an
Actually, for companies large, you want a leader that's right in the center so they can swing anyway. You can't go with the flow. He can go fast, slow, high, low. He's got it covered.
Jude?
Yes?
What about like an in-house ISA?
An in-house what?
ISA. Inside sales agent.
You know, again,
Virtual.
the sales quadrant is the natural eye. So the eye, the expressive, is the natural in sales. Would that be what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's the natural salesperson. So again, if you're hunting, you know, if you're hiring someone that's brand new to the industry as a brand new agent, your odds are better than making it if they're in the I category or the expressive category. So it's be their natural trait. So for those of you today that are thinking I might want to start a team, when you start a team, when you look like this. So when there's so much going on, you've got so much follow through, you've got so much stuff on your plate that you're just like, like I need help, then that's usually a pretty good indicator that it's time to start a team. Most people do start with the assistant first and then add the buyer's agent. Not always, but many agents, what most agents need is to take stuff off their plate. At all times, you should be doing whatever is in your highest and best use of your time. So what's the highest and best use of your time? It's being face-to-face with a buyer or seller. Okay? And there's times when your negotiation skills are going to come in handy, you know, when there's problems with the inspection, you know, or whatever. But for the most part, once that deal's put together, most everything else can be done by someone else. Marketing can be delegated to someone else. Follow-up can be delegated to someone else. Meeting people for inspections can be delegated to someone else. So if you take all that stuff that can be delegated to someone off your plate, you can double or triple your production. So that's why most people, we suggest first, just take everything that you can off your plate. If you suddenly, now you've doubled or tripled your production, you have a lot of listings, you have a lot of sellers wanting open houses, and you can't get them all done on the weekends. You have a lot of listings generating a lot of leads coming in on the internet. Most agents at a certain level of production prefer to be more of a listing agent. And in today's world, those listings are generating a lot of leads, and so that's where the buyer's agent then becomes that natural addition to add to the team next. Someone that can work all those buyers and also do a lot of those open houses for you. So that's usually, if you're just getting started, that's usually where people recommend that you start. Not start with the buyer's agent, but start by taking stuff off your plate and then add the buyer's agent, or you can add them both together. But usually, you know, again, as we said before, you apply some logic to it. Take a look at where you're at in the behavior pattern. List the qualities that you want in the administrative person. So you're going to want someone that's detail-oriented. Okay, that's the left side. Someone great at follow-through, that's the left side. So if you take a look at all the left side qualities, it doesn't mean that you hire to the left, but it does mean that the analytical or amiable trait should be part of it. So if you're on the far right, hiring someone on the right that has that as their secondary trait on top is a real good match for you. And you could cross the line just to here, but in most cases, don't go all the way across the grid, because that's too far away from your natural trait for it to be someone that you feel comfortable working with. When you add more team members, okay, when your current team members look like this, okay? So if you've got one buyer's agent, and again, the buyer agent's like this, like, I have like 100 buyers, okay, I can't do that. Then it's again time to add more people to the team. So the rule of thumb, I think you'll hear Marty and everyone else is going to tell you this, is that you really should almost be to the point of capacity, like the point where you're like, you can't handle anything else, and that's when you add. Don't add before you're at that level, because then you're going to be really stressed out trying to take care of everybody else in your team. How to structure your team for maximum effectiveness? Like this lady right here, who I do know. Now, we've got several people, so I apologize. I didn't know everyone else. I'll be here this afternoon, but I think the next speaker up right after lunch is going to be Marty Hampton. It varies. You know, for the last 10 years, she's always in the top 5 teams for RE/MAX worldwide, okay? So right now, you're looking at one of the very best team leaders in the world for RE/MAX, and she's really, really good at how to make sure that your team is effective and it's running the right way. And that's going to be her contribution to today. So you absolutely do not want to miss that. Not only is she going to teach you what to do with your team, she's going to be on a panel so you can ask questions of her about how she runs her team. And it's an awesome team. I was down there working with her team earlier this year as well. Does everybody know Marty Hampton? Stand up, Marty, quick. Looks just like that. And as Ken said, we also have Caleb Pearson. Where's Caleb? I've never met Caleb before. There you are, Caleb in the back. Very good, Caleb is here. Also, I think got an award for, gosh, like Mount Pleasant's Magazine voted Best Realtor and Best Real Estate Team, so good job, Caleb. Very good. And Richard and Larry, where are they at? And they are members of our own team right over here. All right. So you're going to learn everything really that you need to do to be a good team leader. But here's what I'd like you to look at the information that you're going to get this afternoon, is that, you know, this isn't just about how you run an effective team or how you select the right members of your team, but this is just life stuff, you know? This is, you know, when you look at how they operate their teams and they're operating their businesses, even if you don't have a team yet, you're going to learn they're just really good at running their business, which is their real estate business. So you're going to each learn some things that will be really important in every aspect of your business, whether you have that team yet or you're thinking about it for the future, or some of you who are thinking that you want a team may actually listen to each of our speakers this afternoon and think, okay, you know what, now I'm leaving that team thing alone. I'm just going to make it, you know, I'm just going to make it me, or I'm just going to hire an assistant and I'm done. Because being a team leader isn't the right role for everyone. And that, I think, is something that you're going to know by the end of the day as well. Running a team is like running realities, and for, you know, the leader, no matter how big or how small your team is, you do have to try to constantly be putting yourself into the position that other person's in, and constantly deciding, you know, do I have the right people on my team as well? So it starts with that. You know, when you select the right people for your team, whether you own the real estate firm or you're building your own team, it's always going to be better. For Ken, you know, he's always looking at how do I keep the ones that I've got happy, how do I retain them? Far easier to retain an agent than it is to recruit one. Same thing for you as a team leader is, you know, be kind to the people that work in your team, because they make your job easier and they do a lot of stuff that you don't want to do. So it's so much easier to retain them than it is to find another person that would be good. Ongoing training, support, and motivation is something that you need to do as a team leader, just as, again, Ken is constantly offering things within the company to allow you to grow, such as this event. Your team members have to be happy or content. For the most part, we are what's called emotionally based industry, means that 80% of all people in this industry are emotional decision makers. And emotional decision makers do have to enjoy where they're at, who they work with, and what they do. And if you're happy, you are productive. Do you ever stop and think about that? Do you ever know, like within the office, if someone's going through something like death, divorce, trauma, someone on your team going through death, divorce, trauma, something really bad, what happens to your production? It drops. And as soon as that is over and life's good again, what happens to production? It's up. Sales agents, 80% of all agents produce according to their mental state of mind. Okay? And so therefore, when you're happy, you're productive. When you're unhappy, you're not. And so even without realizing it sometimes intuitively, that means you have to work in a positive environment. You have to work with people that make you feel good. And on the team, if you've got those emotional agents on your team, it's the same is true with them. You know, it's not as much about money as it is feeling appreciated for the job and the role that they support, that they contribute to the team. And you can do so many little things to just show someone that you appreciate it. You know that USA Today recently had an article on the front page of USA Today, and it said that silly little things are the #1 way to show people that they're appreciated. And the first on the list was a handwritten note. And it said because of technology, because of emails, things of that nature, people really don't get birthday cards that often anymore, and they don't get notes that say they appreciate it. They get, you know, an email or something. He said, you want to grab someone's attention, just take the time to write them a little note that says, I really appreciate everything that you do. Or do something really small that says, you're such an important part of my team, we couldn't do what we do without you. Most people just want to know that they're appreciated. And they have to be fairly compensated for their efforts. Okay, I think that this is so important for your team members. Wayne Munden, I don't know if anybody you know Wayne and Virginia Munden up in Ontario and Canada. Does anybody know Virginia Wayne Munden, the Munden team? They're a great RE/MAX team up there. They do a ton of business. I mean, Wayne's got 5 or 6 people on his team. They're all earning $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 each as team members. You know, so that's a huge amount of business on the team. But they're all drivers. Now, Wayne himself is a double driver. All of his buyers, all of his members are pretty much driver personalities. They're all very strong. And at all times, he's doing everything he can to keep generating more and more business so that they're all, again, feeling very fairly compensated. People ask Wayne, how do you keep your team members? He goes, you know what? I compensate them well. They make a ton of money. and they see what I'm doing behind the scenes to drive that business, and they don't want to do that. They're happy with their $2 or $3 or $400,000. I would be too. They could make a little bit more as the team leader, but they don't really want to because again, they're happy. So if you build it right and you manage it well, you can also sell it. And we've done this program for you guys in the past. If you were here, you know, it's pretty simple. Most real estate businesses can be sold for 1.5 times the gross commissions that your business generates. And as a team, that's so important. So if your team is generating $400,000 a year in commissions, then that business is worth $600,000. A lot of times our team members are selling that business to a team member because this is a person who's already intimately familiar with their business, already involved in their business. And it's very, very easy to do. You basically just collect 10% of every closing until you're paid off, which usually takes 5 or 6 years. But it's a great exit strategy for any agent. So build your business, even if you're not building a team, build your business while you can sell it. If your team build it well. Bless you. If you, I think we gave this kit to Ken, but if you don't have that kit, you can go on our website and grab it as well. Keep them happy and you'll keep them. How many of you have read the book or gone through the training, the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman? Okay, the 5 Love Languages is considered to be probably the #1 course and book on personal relationships. And in the love language, here's basically what it says. Each of us has our own love language. And when we appreciate someone, we tend to give them appreciation within our love language. So if it's money or gifts, if that's your love language, you tend to think that you tend to give people money or gifts when you appreciate them. Or if it's words of affirmation or quality time or acts of service or physical touch, whatever it is, each of us has our own love language. You can take this test for free at 5lovelanguages.com. I would highly recommend that you incorporate this also into your team and find out what each of your teams are looking for. What is their love language? Because here's what that means. If for me, it's acts of service. If you want to show me you appreciate me, acts of service. But for you, it's words of affirmation. Chances are you just keep telling me how wonderful I am. But if you tell me how wonderful I am and it's not my love language, it doesn't really impact me. And there was a lady at Remax Broker down in Texas, she told me that she learned a long time ago that even though for her, she wanted her husband to constantly say that he loved her, it just wasn't in his DNA, he wasn't going to do it. His was acts of service. And he would come into the house and he would take care of her gardens, he would mow the lawn, and he'd come in and say, honey, look at your yard. Look what I did. I spent the whole day getting your yard ready for you. And she said, and when we went through this course, I learned that the best way I could communicate my love for him and what he did was to simply, hug him and say, I love you too. Because she knew that when he said, look what I've done for you in the yard, it's acts of service, that's what he was saying to her. But more importantly, I had a broker owner who had his entire leadership team was pretty much up and array. There was kind of a revolt going on, and they did a 3-day getaway. They invited me to come and try to figure out what was going on, how to pull the team back together. And interestingly enough, for the broker, it was money and gifts. They would give him designer purses and all kinds of stuff, you know, all the time. But every member of his team, it was actually quality time and words of affirmation. And he was amazed to realize that none of them cared about the gifts that he was given. They really just wanted one-on-one face time with him. And I think as a leader, it's really important for you to also know how do you best show your people that you appreciate them. Again, that's the platinum role. Don't do as to others as you want done to them, but to yourself, but do unto others as they would like you to do unto them. I gave each of you this sheet in your handout because this is a great way for you to see that each of the personalities at the top, and out of the disc profile, has a different strength, different limitations, different way of communicating, even a different way to recharge. For the driver, did you ever have a friend of yours that says, hey, you know, I need to, just need to recharge and walk and run 5 miles? I'm like, seriously? That you're going to recharge by running 5 miles? Okay, I need a glass of wine. So the I, that's social time, okay? Just like put me in a group of people, give me some wine, I'm fine, you know? But for the amiable, it's nothing time. For the intellectual, it's private time. So I gave you this just so that as team leaders, it's about all the things that you should know, how they react under pressure, how they make good decisions, what is typically their love language. and how it's best to communicate with them to help you in communicating with your team members, as well as your family members and your clients. Gary Chapman wrote the 5 Love Languages, has also teamed up with Paul White recently, and they have actually produced this book called 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And it's taken the same concept as love language, but how to apply it within the workforce, which I think is a great book for all leaders to read as well. Just shows you how important it is to appreciate what others are doing to contribute to their team. And that's pretty much it. So my job today was to kind of help you identify not only who are the right people for your team, how to better communicate with those people in your team, and to carry that into other aspects of your life. And so with that, Ken, am I going to turn it back over to you?